Easter dinner has always been a performance in your family, and tonight is no different. The dining room smells like honey-glazed ham judgment and the slow suffocation of tradition. You take your usual seat at the end of the table, 2 spots down from the centerpiece of attention, your brother. He's in rare form tonight, which isn't rare at all. He's got that lean forward, elbows on the table confidence only the self-anointed successful can afford. So yeah, he says, gesturing with his wine glass like he's accepting a trophy, "I closed the Reading deal solo. That's 7 figures in pipeline easy. My VP said I might even get bumped up before Q3. A chorus of wows, and that's our golden boy ripples around the table. Your aunt clasps her hands like he just got engaged. Even your dad nods with that half-proud, half-jealous smirk he saves for moments like this. You stay quiet, fork in your hand, knife poised over scalloped potatoes, chewing slower than necessary. Your brother glances at you for the first time all evening like he just remembered you exist. Still doing whatever it is you do. A few eyes flick your way. You swallow. Not the potatoes, just everything. You give the polite smile, the one that says, "Yes, I'm still breathing. Thanks for noticing." But then you notice her grandma. She's seated next to you, quiet as usual, except her fingers are fidgeting around something on her lap beneath the table. Her eyes catch yours for a second, then another. And something about that second glance, it lands different. It's not pity, it's not confusion. It's amusement. You want to ask, but you don't. Because your brother's off again retelling how he saved the quarter, how the new intern basically worships him, how he's working so hard it's criminal. The table eats it up like it's dessert and they forgot dinner. You chew on silence. Your mother chimes in asking when he'll finally buy a proper house. Your brother launches into property taxes and the Scottsdale market like he's rehearsing for CNBC. You sip your water. It tastes like being forgotten. Honestly, he says with a chuckle, I think you've got to want success. Some people just coast. No offense. You don't flinch. You've built entire companies on quieter moments than this. But the words land anyway, a soft slap to years of being sidelined, patronized, erased. You glance again at Grandma. She meets your eyes, and this time she smiles. Then she lifts it, a folded manila envelope yellowed with time but crisp at the edges. She lays it gently on the table in front of her untouched plate. The sound it makes is barely audible, a whisper of paper on linen, but the effect is immediate. Your brother's mouth pauses mid-sentence. Everyone turns. Grandma in her soft voice says, "You know I've been holding on to this for a while. Thought tonight might be the right time." She pushes the envelope across the table. Toward you. You don't reach for it right away. Something inside you pauses, not from fear, from the weight of being seen for once, not through the fog of family expectations, but clearly. Your brother tilts his head. "What's that?" Grandma nods toward you. Ask her. There's a silence now. It's rich and thick like molasses. You slowly unfold the envelope. Inside a certificate. Your certificate. The original stock document from your company. The one you quietly incorporated 7 years ago when you were living off dollar coffee and working out of a basement. It still bears your old address. You place it on the table, face up, unapologetic. The silence stretches until it snaps. "Wait," your cousin mutters, "is that real?" Grandma nods once. I believed in her when no one else did. And for the first time in your life, you see your brother's expression fall not out of anger, not out of embarrassment, but confusion. As if the script changed and no one told him he wasn't the star anymore. The air in the room shifts just slightly at first. A ripple, not a wave. But you feel it. Like someone opened a window during a blizzard and everyone's pretending not to notice the cold creeping in. Your brother chuckles, the kind of laugh that doesn't reach his eyes. "That's cute," he says, gesturing vaguely toward the certificate. "Did you print that online or something?" No one laughs with him. Your aunt blinks at the document, squinting like she's reading another language. Your father leans forward, slowly, eyes narrowing. You keep your hands folded neatly in your lap. You don't explain. You don't need to. The weight of the silence is doing the work for you. It's the first time the room isn't orbiting around your brother. And he can feel it. What company is that, someone asks? Your cousin, maybe. It doesn't matter. Grandma is the one who answers. The tech firm you read about in Forbes last fall, page 19. You don't look up, but you can feel the blood drain from your brother's face. You remember that article barely more than a blurb, but it had your name in the byline. Founder and CEO, it had said. You never showed it to anyone. Your brother reaches for his phone, probably to fact check. You hear the screen unlock with a soft click. He types something, pauses, types again. Then nothing. You glance over and catch him staring at the screen like it just slapped him. You built that company? He finally mutters. You don't nod. You just take a sip of water. The same way he did with that wine earlier, like it's your trophy now. The room is still. Then Grandma, bless her timing, leans back in her chair, sighing in that grandmotherly way that somehow both punctuates a moment and dismisses the nonsense in it. I always said she hums quiet rivers carve the deepest canyons. You've heard that one before. She said it to you in the kitchen years ago when you cried over your first failed investor pitch, when your brother told you to just get a marketing job or something. Now he's staring at a stock certificate like it's written in hieroglyphics. He doesn't know what to say, and that's a first. Your mom clears her throat. Well, that's something. It's a clumsy attempt at reasserting control, but it falls flat. The energy in the room has shifted and won't be coaxed back to the old rhythm. It's not about your brother anymore. It's not about what kind of car he drives or the deal he closed last week or how much his bonus might be. It's about you, and they don't know how to process that. Your brother looks up from his phone again. His voice isn't cruel now, just uncertain. Why didn't you ever tell us? There it is. The real question. You want to say, because I was building something no one here ever thought I could. Because every time I tried to speak, you filled the air with your resume. Because I learned to stop explaining myself to people who only clapped for noise, never for substance. But instead you shrug. Didn't think it mattered to you. He opens his mouth to protest, closes it again, and now the silence becomes a mirror. Everyone starts seeing themselves in it. Your dad taps his fork against his plate like maybe the sound can ground him. Your aunt takes a long sip of wine. Your cousin pulls out their phone, pretending to check messages. No one looks at you, but they see you. You glance at the certificate once more, then slide it back into the envelope. Fold it neatly. No need to wave it like a flag. It's done its job. It exists. That's enough. And Grandma reaches over, pats your hand with that paper-thin warmth that somehow always feels like armor. The rest of dinner is quieter, not tense, just recalibrated. No one asks your brother about Scottsdale again. The ham is still warm, the potatoes are cooling, and the weight of Grandma's envelope sits heavier than the porcelain dishware on the table. You lean back in your chair, letting the chatter fizzle around you. It's like the dinner entered a different universe, one where you exist not as a footnote, but as a headline no one read until now. Your brother is still trying to reverse the gravity shift. He tosses out a lukewarm joke about crypto, something about should have bought Dogecoin in 2021, but the punchline lands with the grace of a dropped fork. A few people chuckle out of politeness. Not Grandma, not you. He's used to being the center of attention, but now his orbit feels off. Like the sun's been replaced by a quieter, steadier kind of light one he can't control. Across the table, your father finally clears his throat. So this company of yours, what exactly does it do? The question isn't hostile, but it's not curious either. It's cautious, like he's trying to pin down a wild animal that's suddenly grown horns. You answer evenly. We build adaptive cloud solutions for small to mid-sized logistics firms. AI-powered low-cost scalability. A beat. Then that's it, just But it's a loaded sound full of things he won't say. Like, I didn't know you could do that. Or, I didn't realize you were the kind of person who starts companies instead of working for them. You don't expect more. You didn't come here for applause. But then your brother jumps back in. You mean like what FlexPath is doing? We just acquired one of those vendors last quarter. You could let that lie. You could let him reach for a connection to drag himself back into relevance. But something in you, something deep and old and tired, decides otherwise. You raise an eyebrow. Yeah, I know. You acquired one of our competitors. For 3 times their valuation. His face twitches. You continue just a touch softer. They were using our back-end framework. We licensed it to them last summer. There it is, the moment. His eyes widen just a hair. His jaw clenches. It hits him like a delayed wave. Not only are you playing in the same league, he's playing with your toolkit and didn't even know it. Grandma, bless her, breaks the silence. She sent me a video once years ago. This little platform on a screen sorting freight routes like a puzzle. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I knew. It looked like something no one else had thought of. You glance sideways at her, unsure whether to laugh or cry. It's not the first time she's seen you. It's just the first time everyone else noticed. Your brother pushes back from the table slightly, like the room's air has become too dense. You never told me any of this. He mutters more to himself than anyone else. No, you reply calm, I didn't. A pause, not angry, not bitter, just fact. Why not, he asks quieter now. You sigh, not loudly. Just enough that it's real. Because when I was working late nights, you called me aimless. When I skipped family BBQs to code, you said I was antisocial. When I started pitching to VCs, you said I was chasing dreams like a teenager. No one interrupts you, no one dares. I figured if you weren't listening, then you didn't need to hear it now. His eyes drop to the table. He doesn't argue. That might be the most shocking part of all. And for a strange moment, the room feels still. Like no one wants to say the wrong thing and knock it all over again. Then Grandma leans forward and says, "You always liked to build. Even as a girl, you'd take apart radios just to see how they worked. Your brother just liked to make noise." Your mouth twitches at the edges, and this time it's your brother who has no comeback. It's subtle at first, but the shift is undeniable. For the first time at a family gathering, your silence carries more weight than your brother's noise. You sit there, half-finished plate in front of you, while the room quietly reorients around a version of you they never made room for. Your cousin asks what your company's name means, just a casual question, but it catches you off guard. You've gotten so used to explaining yourself to strangers that you forgot what it's like to be asked with genuine curiosity. You explain the name, how it came from a Sanskrit root about movement and flow, how you wanted the brand to reflect adaptability. We don't build solutions and wait for clients to change. We adapt to how they already work and make that better. There's a small pause, then your aunt nods slowly. That's smart. And that might be the first time she's used that word on you. You glance at your brother. His fork is moving things around on his plate, but he's not eating anymore. Not because he's upset, not quite, but because something in him is beginning to realize that his grip on the spotlight wasn't as firm as he thought. You remember the birthday card he gave you 2 years ago? Hope you figure things out soon, with an underlined smiley face. You had smiled back, handed him a neutral thank you, then went back to beta, testing your third prototype in silence. You're not angry now, you're just awake. When your brother finally speaks again, it's quieter. So, you really built it yourself. All of it. You nod once. And no one helped? You pause, no one here. His shoulders stiffen slightly. He's not used to hearing that. Not used to hearing you name the distance like that out loud. But it's not spiteful, it's just true. You glance over at Grandma. She sent me $100 every Christmas. I used it to renew my domain name every year. Your brother leans back in his chair, his wine untouched now. He looks like someone trying to remember the last time they paid attention to a magic trick, only to find out the magician was standing right next to them all along. Why didn't you tell me, he asks again, almost like it's the last card in his deck. You don't smile, you don't gloat. Because I didn't build it for you. That stings. You see it land, but you don't take it back. You couldn't even if you tried. He shifts in his seat, suddenly needing a new foothold. Well, I mean, that's great and all, but it's not like the company would have made it without funding or connections. You tilt your head. It didn't. I maxed out 3 credit cards, took 6 rejections before one angel investor said yes. I ate oatmeal for dinner 5 nights a week for a year. That quiets him. The rest of the table starts to fidget. Cutlery clinks again. Someone pours more wine. Your cousin excuses themselves to the bathroom just to breathe. But you don't mind. For once, you're not shrinking to make anyone comfortable. You're not adjusting your voice or deflecting questions. You're just present. And it's starting to dawn on your brother that he doesn't know you at all. He says almost defensively, "I always thought you were more of a creative type, not business." You look at him calmly. "I didn't ask for permission to be both." And just like that, the table finally falls fully quiet. No defense, no witty remark, no polite dismissal. Just truth sitting there like a candle in the middle of the Easter centerpiece, burning slow and steady. You stare at the candle flickering in the center of the table. It wasn't there last year, or maybe it was, and you were just too invisible to notice. Funny how people miss the obvious when they've already written your role in their heads. You remember when the story really began, not here at this table, but years ago, in a cramped apartment with peeling linoleum floors and neighbors who played bad techno until 3 a.m. You remember sitting at your chipped kitchen table with a cracked screen laptop trying to build something from nothing. It had started with a glitch. You'd been tracking shipping delays on a freelance project, noticing inefficiencies the software kept overlooking. Everyone else blamed the people. You blamed the system. And instead of filing another report, you opened a blank terminal and started typing. Your first version crashed, the second wouldn't install, the third ran but only backwards. You were alone with it. No team, no applause, just you learning to rebuild the world in lines of logic no one else could see. Meanwhile, your brother was out there collecting LinkedIn endorsements like medals. Family barbecues were all about his quarterly wins. His corner office. You were just the sibling who messed around with computers. They asked you to fix the Wi-Fi, not build an empire. And back then you let them. You said things like just working on a few ideas because it hurt less than admitting you were working 20 hours a day and still couldn't afford a decent chair. But Grandma saw you. You remember her handwriting shaky but precise on the envelopes she mailed. Keep going, she wrote 1 year. That was it. No explanation, no fanfare, just those 2 words. And it was enough. She was the only one who ever asked why you looked so tired but kept going. The only one who didn't laugh when you said, "I think I'm building something important." At the table now, you glance toward her and wonder if she remembers that conversation. Judging by the soft smile tugging at the corners of her mouth, she does. Your brother takes another stab at recovering ground. I mean, I guess we've all had our own way of making it work, right? He says it like a peace offering. Like maybe if he wraps this in enough ambiguity, he doesn't have to admit he never once asked what you were doing all those years. You look at him. Sure, you reply. Some of us just had to build the road while walking it. Your father hums low in his throat like he's about to speak. But then he doesn't. Maybe he's remembering all the times he asked you if you were still chasing that idea. Maybe he's realizing that idea now funds 8 departments and holds 3 patents. You poke at a string bean, letting the silence stretch. Someone your younger cousin finally pipes up. Wait, so how big is your company now? You answer without ego. Just facts. We hit a $60 million valuation last quarter. We're negotiating Series C. Mouths fall open with the kind of soundless disbelief only numbers can produce. Your mom's knife stops midway through slicing a roll. You see her jaw clench before her hand lowers. She doesn't say anything. And that's fine. You're not here for their approval. You never were. Your brother forces a grin, but it's tight. His voice comes out a little too loud. Well, hey, that's great. We're all proud of you. Right, guys? No one responds fast enough for it to sound real. The sound of Grandma's teaspoon tapping her cup is the only rhythm in the room. She says quietly, "She never needed you to be proud. She needed you to believe." And there it is. No drama, no explosion, just a truth so bare it doesn't need a spotlight. You lean back, exhale through your nose, and realize this dinner, this endless Easter parade of hierarchy and hollow praise, has already unraveled. And you didn't even raise your voice. You were always the quiet one. Not because you didn't have things to say, but because speaking into a void gets exhausting. At some point, you stop raising your hand and start raising your standards. So while your brother filled rooms with bravado, you filled pages with code. While he memorized buzzwords and floated from one title to the next, you memorized your customers' frustrations until your software could answer them before they even clicked support. And yet, here you are, seated at a table where people still measure success in square footage and salary slips. Or at least they used to. Now every question turns toward you. Your aunt dabs her mouth with a napkin, suddenly softer. "I had no idea you were doing so well. Why didn't your mom tell us?" You glance at your mother. Her lips are pursed hands, busy slicing the roll she abandoned earlier. As if by focusing on the dough, she can unhear the past 20 minutes. She didn't know you say. I stopped sending updates after the third time she changed the subject. There's no malice in your voice, just clarity. And maybe that's what makes it sting more. You remember calling her when you got your first grant. You were so excited you could barely form sentences. She had congratulated you, then immediately asked if your brother had heard back about that management program. After that, you stopped volunteering news. Silence became your safety net. Honestly, your cousin mutters, I just thought you were still freelancing. You smile faintly. I still do. I just freelance for myself now. That gets a tiny laugh, one of the first honest sounds at the table all evening. Your brother, though, he's not laughing. He's watching you like someone studying a chessboard 5 moves too late. You know that look. You've worn it before. The realization that someone else was playing a deeper game all along. He folds his arms. I mean, I guess we could have helped if you told us what you were doing. You blink slowly. I didn't need help. I needed space. That hush again. You could explain more. You could list every rejection every night you thought about quitting, every failed prototype you buried like a seed and waited for something to grow. But what would be the point? Let them sit with the version of you they never bothered to imagine. You glance at your grandmother again. She gives you a slow nod, almost imperceptible. You remember how she once knitted you a scarf and stitched the initials of your company's beta name into the corner. She said it was just in case it made it big, so you'd remember the beginning. It still sits in your desk drawer. You haven't worn it in years, but you couldn't throw it out. It's the only thing from home that ever felt like it belonged in your new life. Your mom finally speaks. Well, I just didn't think you wanted to be the center of attention. You don't laugh. You just tilt your head. No, I wanted to be taken seriously. There's a difference. Your father makes a noise like he's clearing his throat again, but really he's clearing the discomfort. He says, You know, I was tough on you, but I guess I thought it was for your own good. You nod. You wanted me to follow the path you understood. He meets your gaze. That's fair. It's not an apology, but it's closer than you've ever gotten. And your brother? He shifts again. You know, he's not used to not being the brightest voice in the room. You wonder what he'll do now that he's not the default golden child, just a man with a LinkedIn badge and a resume full of borrowed power. He opens his mouth, but Grandma gets there first. You know, she says the difference between you two was never about talent. It was about who was willing to be underestimated long enough to build something real. You look at her. You don't say anything. You don't have to. The hum of the house changes after Grandma speaks. It's like the walls heard her too and decided to lean in. No one dares fill the silence immediately, and in that pause you feel something settle inside you, something that's been restless for years. Your brother finally looks down at his plate like he's just remembered he's supposed to be eating. He stabs a piece of ham without really aiming, then sets the fork down again. Across the table, your aunt tries to pivot. You must have had help somewhere, though, she says with a hopeful lilt, like she's searching for a way to re-anchor the story in something familiar. No one builds a company like that totally alone. You nod once. I had help. Just not the kind you think. They wait. You tap the table lightly. The first person who believed in the idea was a stranger in a Seattle coffee shop. She was an analyst between jobs. Listened to my rambling pitch, asked the right questions, and ended up writing my first use case scenario. I paid her in muffins. A few eyebrows raise. Then, there was the guy I met on a message board who taught me how to scale cloud containers without burning 6 figures on licensing. We traded ideas for months, never even met in person. You pause. There's help everywhere if you're not looking for applause with it. That part lands heavier than you expected, because they know. Deep down, they all know how often help around this table came with expectations attached, strings you couldn't see until you tripped over them. Your mom shifts uncomfortably. Well, we were just trying to make sure you were practical. You give her a long, level look. I remember. That's why I stopped telling you my plans. You turned them into worries before I even had a chance to try. That shuts down any further justification. You can tell your brother wants to jump in. He's not used to being this quiet for this long. But every time he inhales like he's about to speak, he pauses, reconsiders. And that hesitation is louder than anything he might have said. Grandma smiles faintly like she's watching the culmination of a long game she always knew you'd win. Remember, she says softly, when you were 12 and built that little robot from the toaster parts. You do. You hadn't thought about it in years, but now the memory returns vivid as ever. The little moving parts, the smell of burnt plastic, how everyone had laughed except her. Everyone thought it was junk, she continues, but you had that look in your eyes, like the pieces made sense to you even when they didn't to anyone else. You glance around the table. They still don't, you say, smiling gently. But I've learned to stop translating. That gets a small laugh, real this time. Even your cousin chuckles, murmuring, honestly, I think it's cool. We always assumed you were the quiet one because you had nothing to say. Turns out you were just talking to people who weren't listening. You raise your water glass slightly in silent toast. That lands too. And for the first time ever, your brother doesn't rush to reclaim the floor. He leans back, nods slowly, and says nothing, which for him is monumental. The house has grown quieter, not just in volume, but in pressure. Like all the weight that once sat on your shoulders has been redistributed into awareness. There's power in the truth, but more than that, there's peace. You didn't burn bridges. You just stopped walking across ones that went nowhere. And somehow, now that they see what you built on the other side, they finally wish they'd followed. There's a long-standing rule at these family dinners. Someone always brings up the past. Usually your brother, usually in a way that flatters himself. You used to brace for it, like waiting for a wave you can't outrun. But tonight it rolls in and breaks differently. So he says slowly, remember that Thanksgiving when you spilled cranberry sauce on Dad's laptop and we all thought you'd broken it? You do remember? You were 17. It wasn't even your fault the plate had slid off the too small tray your mom insisted on using. But you took the blame quietly. Your brother made it a running joke for years. He laughs half-hearted. Funny now, huh? You give a small smile. Yeah, except it wasn't cranberry sauce. The hard drive overheated. The sauce just revealed it. A pause. Then your dad mutters, wait, is that true? You nod. I told you at the time, you just didn't believe me. The table is still. Not dramatic, just heavier, like the furniture suddenly aged a few decades. Grandma sips her tea and gives you a side glance, that same knowing look she's always had. You feel it in your chest, not the pain of being dismissed, but the quiet ache of having survived it. Your brother clears his throat. Guess we all made assumptions, huh? You reply gently. You didn't make assumptions. You made decisions. Then expected me to adapt to them. The words are sharp but not cruel. They're just true, and they land. No one defends themselves this time. Because deep down, they all know. They remember the birthdays missed because you were too busy with that computer thing. The conversations redirected back to your brother's latest promotion. The subtle digs masked as jokes. The silence you endured mistaken for passivity. You let them sit with it. Then almost to your own surprise, you soften. But I'm not angry. And it's true. You're not. Not anymore. Somewhere between ramen dinners and patent signings, the resentment faded into something more useful focus. I just stopped performing. And when I did, I found out what I could actually do. The room breathes again. Your aunt sets her fork down. That's a lot more generous than I would have been. You smile slightly. I didn't do it for them. I did it so I wouldn't carry them in my work. And that's the part no one here ever saw the version of you that didn't just build something to prove them wrong. You built something to prove yourself right. Grandma leans forward. So what's next? You glance at her. Next. She nods. You've climbed the mountain. What's on the other side? You think about that. About how success was never the destination. About how the real victory was learning to stay rooted in your own voice, no matter how loud the room got. You finally answer, I think I'm going to build something that no one needs to be loud to succeed in. And she smiles, a real one, soft and deep. Your brother looks down again, then up. Can I ask you something? You nod. Is it too late to understand what you built? You pause. No, you say, but you can't learn it by talking over it. He nods quiet. Something in him flickers, not regret exactly, but maybe awareness. A recognition that his voice has always echoed louder than its depth. For once he doesn't fight it. And you're not waiting for an apology. You've already moved past needing one. The evening wears on. Dessert comes and goes, carrot cake with too much frosting, the kind you used to scrape off as a kid, while your brother licked the knife clean and told you that you'd never survive real life if sugar bothered you. Now no one talks about the cake. They're still talking about you, but not in that performative way you remember, like dissecting your choices under a microscope. This time they're asking real questions. Your cousin wants to know how you pitch to investors without a business degree. Your aunt asks if your platform could help the local flower shop with its chaotic delivery scheduling. Your dad murmurs something about an old friend needing cloud stuff, though he's clearly out of his depth. You answer where it makes sense. You redirect where it doesn't. And most importantly, you don't shrink. Your brother stays mostly quiet, which is new. Not sulking, not hostile, just quiet, like someone learning a new language and afraid to mispronounce it. You remember being at a similar dinner years ago, only then you were the one picking at crumbs while he held court. Your voice was quieter then, not because you had nothing to say, but because no one asked. You were the artsy one, the techie one, the one still figuring it out. But what they never understood was that while he was practicing his speeches, you were practicing your silence, sharpening it until it could slice through noise like a scalpel. And now finally it has. Your mom helps clear plates. She's not saying much, but you catch her looking at you more often than usual. There's something behind her expression, not quite pride, but maybe curiosity. Maybe she's seeing you without the filter of family roles. Maybe it's uncomfortable. You're okay with that. Your brother finally speaks again. You know, he says slowly, I used to think success was about being loud, about walking into a room and making everyone look. He's not looking at you when he says it, but he doesn't need to. You already know the rest of the sentence before he finishes it. But tonight, you didn't raise your voice once, and everyone's still looking. You nod gently. That's because I don't need them to look. I just needed them to listen. He exhales, a long one, like someone letting go of a very old, very heavy belief. You've changed, he says. No, you reply, you just started paying attention. Grandma lets out a soft hum of approval, the kind that says, there it is. You reach for your glass again, but this time your hand's steady. There's no more tightness in your chest, no more effort behind your posture. You don't feel like you're holding your breath at your own family's table. For the first time in years, you're just sitting, seen, not because you demanded it, but because you earned it. And even more powerful, you don't need it now. You were whole before they knew it. And somehow, that's what makes it all finally click for them. The sun has long since dipped below the horizon, and the dining room now glows with the soft golden haze of overhead light and cooling conversations. Plates are stacked in the sink crumbs gathered in the creases of a once crisp tablecloth and chairs, pushed back slightly as people sink into them, not from food, but from the quiet weight of everything that's been said. You don't plan it, but you find yourself standing, not to make a speech, not to command attention, just to stretch your legs. But everyone looks up. Your brother straightens like he's waiting for another bombshell. Your mother puts down the dish she was about to carry into the kitchen. Even your dad glances up from where he's absently drying a spoon. You hold the envelope in your hands again, the one with the certificate now slightly worn at the corners, edges bent from all the quiet power it's held in the last 2 hours. And in that moment, you remember all the times you used to stand like this. As a kid being scolded, as a teenager defending your weird projects, as a 20-something who came home for Christmas and got asked, "So are you still unemployed?" But not tonight. Tonight, you're not defending anything. You meet your brother's eyes, and for once, there's no friction. Just the beginning of something that might eventually become respect. Not yet friendship, not yet understanding, but something that doesn't have to be shouted across the dinner table anymore. He nods once, almost imperceptibly, but it's there. You look to your parents. Your mom tries to smile, but it wavers. She doesn't know what to say. Your father says nothing either, but his posture is different. Less stiff, less ready to argue. Maybe the silence taught him something too. Grandma reaches over and gently taps the chair beside her. You sit again not because they asked, but because you chose to stay. You know, she says, placing her hand lightly over yours, this isn't just a company. It's a boundary. One they finally had to see. You nod quietly, gratefully, and you realize you didn't just build a platform for logistics. You built a foundation where you could stand tall, alone if needed, seen if lucky. And tonight you were both. Your cousin starts talking about something like college applications maybe, a new job, someone passes more cake, someone else makes a joke. The volume lifts, the spell breaks, but not fully. A part of the room still holds that hush, that weight, that memory of what it felt like when the ground shifted. You let them have their noise back, because now you know it doesn't drown you. You watch your brother laugh at something someone says, but this time he doesn't dominate the room. He glances your way once, and you don't flinch. Later, as coats are pulled from hooks and hugs are exchanged, your father claps your shoulder awkwardly. "Proud of you," he says. You give a small smile, thanks. Your mom hugs you tighter than expected. And your brother. He steps closer, then says, "If you ever feel like sharing more about the business, I'd like to understand it. For real." You nod, maybe. Not a promise, just a door left slightly ajar. As you walk out into the cool night air, you realize something strange. You're not carrying the weight of needing to prove anything anymore. You're just carrying your coat and the envelope that once had to speak for you, now folded neatly in your hand, lighter than it's ever been. The night wraps around you like a wool blanket, cool, quiet, and softer than expected. There's no rush to your steps, no lingering tension clinging to your shoulders, just the calm that follows truth told clearly and received without protest. You take a long breath, and for once it doesn't feel like you're stealing oxygen in someone else's story. It's yours, all of it. The silence isn't awkward anymore, it's earned. Like the stillness after a storm, like the moment the wind stops and the trees stop bracing because they realize it's over. You don't look back at the house, not because you're angry, but because you no longer need to. Tonight you were seen without performing, heard without shouting, and understood maybe not fully, but enough. In a world that so often rewards volume, you found strength and clarity, and that clarity brought peace. As your footsteps carry you farther from the house and closer to yourself, something gentle settles inside you. Not pride, not relief, just a quiet knowing. The kind that doesn't need to be validated to feel real. The stars above you blink in silence, their light arriving from distances your family may never travel, but you already have. Quietly, boldly, entirely on your own terms. And if you're still awake, that's okay too. Some nights just lying still and breathing softly is enough to return home to yourself.